The 167th edition of the Roy's Boys podcast starts right now.
Carolina basketball family is the strongest there's ever been. There ever will be.
Eight up freehand, King rights the ball. Pushes into Hubert Davis. 8 seconds. Davis trying to get free. Over to Fox. Fox, baseline. Up for the shot, dive off the glass. Oklahoma calls timeout, but the game is over. The game is over. Carolina has upset number 1 Oklahoma. Been ready on his second attempt. That one is no good. They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores.
With 20 seconds left to play, goes back to Michael Jordan. Jumper from out on the left. Good! 63, 62, 13, 12, 11. Georgetown with one timeout. Brent Brown looking. All the way to Worthy. 35. The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship. Carolina with foul. He takes the timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul.
Brown gets it into Williams. Here comes Williams front court. Williams on the drive. Gets it back out the head. Long outside shot. Short rebound. It's over. And how about the Tar Heels? They are the national champions.
The Tar Heels are the national dadgum champions.
And that's what it takes when you big time games. You got to compete. You do it with your brain, and you got to do it with your heart too. And that's pretty doggone good.
From QCBroadcasting.com, this is the Roy's Boys podcast with your host, Josh Marlowe. Everybody, welcome to another edition of the Roy's Boys podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. Josh and Anthony, we're with you here tonight. We're in person. We just got back from a work event doing two high school basketball games for the company that we work for. Tonight we're going to break down the matchup with the Florida State Seminoles. But before we break down the matchup with Florida State, Anthony wanted to get some of his thoughts from the win over Syracuse tonight. As you guys know, I had Mark Krings with me on, and we broke down the game against the Cuse and really the Carolina through the ACC season to this date. And, buddy, look, it was a big win for Carolina, an 85-75 or 81-75 home win over the Orange, where they scored 40 or more points in both halves for the first time all season long. It took them to the 12th game to do that, and it was the best game they've played of easily the ACC season. You and I kind of think it's probably the best game they played outside of either the Texas loss or that road loss to Iowa. But, you know, you look at how they got the win, where they got the win to get their third straight win. It was a big win for the Tar Heels.
Yeah, I see how it is. I am now demoted to only the games where they play bad, where I have to come on here and talk about depressing.
I think you're better equipped to handle me when I'm in that state than Mark, who I've never actually met in person.
I see how it is. I need to look for a new Tar Heel podcast to be a part of. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I really wanted to get on here and just talk a little bit about it because, yeah, that was the best that this team has looked. That was the best that we've seen from Garrison Brooks all season. A lot of encouragement there. Definitely looked a lot more like the Garrison Brooks that we're used to. And, you know, at the same time, you saw guys like Caleb Love take a step forward, R.J. Davis take a step forward. You saw, you know, as a whole, I thought this team played rather well defensively. I thought, you know, there was a spurt at the end of the first half that a lot of people took issue with that led to the game being tied at halftime. I thought it was really just more of Syracuse executing at that time. But Carolina was definitely more confident in this game than they've been all season. They looked like a team that could come in, compete, could be a tournament team. And this is the first time in a while that we felt like that. Like you said, I mean, Texas and Iowa were the two games that we looked at and said those are the games the team played best in. And those were two losses.
Yeah.
This is a win. You get it at home. It comes against the team in Syracuse that was 7-2 coming in. And look, they're still probably going to be a tournament team, whether it's because of opt-outs or if they actually just have that good of a season. They will probably make the tournament. So this is a big win for the Tar Heels. And I think the main thing, it is a huge confidence booster for them going into a game against Florida State where this Florida State team is coming off of playing probably one of their best games that they played over the last couple of years. They were phenomenal. They scored 105 points. They looked about as good as you could possibly look. But who knows? That could be a recipe for success for Carolina traveling on the road on Saturday. Getting the win at Syracuse, though, was the first step to get some confidence for that.
The thing I took away from beating Syracuse, for me as a fan that I liked, is they got the win, and they still got so much where they can still improve on. It wasn't like they put it all together, and that's like us the best they can play. No, they still can play a lot better. They only shot 40% from the field, 21% from behind the three-point line. But defensively, they were a lot better guarding the three. Only allowed 34% shooting for the Orange from behind the three-point line. The job that Leaky Black did in the second half on Buddy Boeheim was the best individual defense performance we've probably seen all year long. You got a big game from Garrison Brooks, who got reinserted in the starting lineup. He responded with 16 points, 10 rebounds. R.J. Davis hit some shots. Caleb Love hit some shots, and they've got to continue to, they got to keep progressing because Carolina's going to need them to make shots really when they get to February, and that schedule turns really tough and once you go to that first Duke game. So that's the thing about it was like when you looked at the wins against Notre Dame, the win at Miami, you were really dumbfounded how Carolina won. You look at the game the other night, you could see why Carolina won the game. They led for 28 minutes and 38 seconds, and you could see why because their level of play was as good as we've seen in the ACC season. So, and that's something they're going to need when they get ready for Florida State. The Seminoles coming in, as you mentioned, off one of the best games they've played all year long. Probably one of the best games since Leonard Hamilton took over that program back in the early 2000s. A 105-73 thrashing of NC State the other night. We, of course, love seeing that because all that talk about NC State being a legitimate threat when the ACC's kind of been quieted down over the last week or so. And look, with Florida State, you know the drill with Leonard Hamilton's teams. They're going to play really good defense. They've got a lot of size. They've got a lot of length. And then their offense is just a bonus. And they're led by MJ Walker, who's averaging 15.8 points per game, 45% shooting from the field, a 93% foul shooter. You add in standout freshman Scotty Barnes. He's not really scoring a lot, only 11 points per game, but he initiates their offense. He's a leading assist man at 4.1. assists per contest. The average height of this roster is 6'8". They have three guys that play that are 6'11" or taller, and I think that's the thing with Florida State is they're the one team when you look at it on paper, they have the size and the athleticism to match it with Carolina on the interior. But with that in mind, they only average 36 rebounds per game, so I feel like Carolina will have their way again rebounding the basketball.
I don't have the roster in front of me. Is Walker Kessler going to be the third biggest guy on the floor if he plays? I believe they have two guys over 7 foot on this year's roster. That's always one of the weird things about them. Like those guys, they're either really, really good, they play a lot, or they're really not all that great at all, and they don't play a ton, but they get in there in certain moments and play well. But, I mean, you talked about, MJ Walker was a guy that last year, was a part of what they did, but didn't have to be the big-time player with some of the guys that they already had in place there. Now, the pressure's on him to step up. He stepped up. He's had a really good year. Now, they're even getting guys that are coming in as freshmen and playing well. This is not the Florida State from the late 2000s, even the early 2010s, where you would go down there, they might upset you, but they were still a team that wasn't really a threat in the ACC. No, this is the team that, we were talking earlier this evening. We said Virginia is the team that we think will probably get it together, win the ACC, will probably be the best team. Is this probably not the second team that you would think if there's a team that would get it together, it would be this team? Because this is what Florida State's been the last couple of years. There was legitimate buzz coming into this year that if what has happened to Duke happened, if Virginia was potentially to take a step back because of what they lost, this was the team that was right there waiting and could be a big-time threat. Leonard Hamilton's done it before. So Carolina's got to be prepared because this is a team that I think right now Florida State senses some blood in the water from the rest of the ACC. They see that, look, there's an opportunity for us to jump up and be on top of this conference here within the coming weeks because we both agree. Clemson's off to a great start. They're probably going to come back to the field at some point. So I think that's the thing that Carolina has to realize is that, look, the way you played the other night against Syracuse, you could be in that conversation as well. So you've got to come in with that type of confidence. You've got to be able to come in and play the way that you did against Syracuse. One of the biggest things that they did in that game, and I wanted to save this for when we started talking about this game because I think it's so key, is that was the best ball movement that they've had the entire season. And look, it's not just turnovers. The passes were crisper. They were smarter. You could see that they were using their head. Now, look, that's against the zone defense. You're not going to see that often the rest of the way. But you saw what it's like when you can take care of the basketball, when you can make confident passes, and it worked out for you. It even got you in rhythm from the outside at one point in the first half. That disappeared a little bit in the second half. But still, I think that was one of the things that was really encouraging about the other night. And we'll see if that sort of carries over into this game. And the other thing is what can Garrison Brooks do as an encore? And was that a flash in the pan? Was that just he's really good against Syracuse, he's going to go back to struggling? Or is this Garrison Brooks is now on track? He's going to be a guy that can come out scoring double figures every single night and give this Tar Heel team a chance to show that they are 3 bigs deep down low, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with over the next couple of weeks and months in the ACC.
I think another thing we got to talk about when you start talking about Florida State is this was a team last year heading into the ACC tournament. They were the number 1 overall seed after winning the regular season title. They were awarded the conference championship after everything got canceled because of COVID. That might have been Leonard Hamilton's best team he's ever had. That team was a legitimate threat to make the Final Four, and if they would have won the national title, no one would have been surprised. They didn't get that last year, so they have extra motivation coming in. You mentioned why they're getting in high-level freshmen. Well, you're putting out NBA draft prospects left and right at Florida State, a football school like they are. They're becoming – basketball's becoming more important there.
Basketball school.
And Leonard Hamilton's just built – he is the most underrated coach, not in the ACC, in college basketball. He doesn't get enough credit for the job he's done at that school, in this league where you had Carolina, you got Duke, you got Virginia. Maryland was here when he was there building everything up. Like this, he's done a fantastic job.
And he's from Gastonia, so he's really a hero.
And so, this is a quality team. They come in, there's a chance for Carolina to get a win against a top 25 opponent, something they don't have on their resume at this moment. And look, they're 8-4. We're not talking about building a resume for March like we were a few weeks ago, but this would be the biggest win on Carolina's resume to date. They're getting some quad 1 wins, but this would be a really big win because you'd be a top 25 team on the road. Now, granted, it helps. It's not going to be a packed environment because this is a house of horrors for Carolina. Although
there are still going to be fans.
There will be an environment. And then you win this game. That's 4 straight wins in the ACC. You got Wake Forest coming up. You're legitimately being talked about as a team that can factor into that ACC title race. And look, we don't know what the final record's going to be. 14-6, 13-7, hell, 12-8 might win this league this year with how much parity is within the ACC. So there's a lot going into this. I think Garrison Brooks having a big game the other night was huge for his mental state, for his confidence. There was a comment coming out saying that he said going in, I'm going to play better, and then he went and did it. You could always say you're going to play great, but when you don't do it, it's really hard to keep telling yourself that. Well, he gave you 16-10, and he really impacted the game the way that we expect Garrison Brooks to impact the game. It makes it easier for Armando Bacot, who's been your most consistent player, when he's getting help from Garrison Brooks. It makes it easier for Day'Ron Sharpe, who doesn't feel like he has to go in there and do everything when he's on the court, if Garrison Brooks is on the court with him and he's providing something. This game, though, like so many games now in this league and in basketball in general, it's going to be won by your guard play. And I think you got to take what you got the other night with some more confidence. You've seen more split action with Caleb Love on the court and R.J. Davis on the bench, and then R.J. Davis on the court and Caleb Love on the bench. And you're getting good results with that. As opposed to when we were playing them together, it just wasn't working. R.J. Davis, 3 of 8 from the field the other night, gave you 2 threes. Caleb Love, I talked to Jones Angel earlier today, and he said, look, he didn't shoot the ball well, but he was starting to see the court better. He was starting to make plays he needs to make. You're going to need big-time games for those guys you want to get a win on the road.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I think the other night was for them was a confidence booster. And that's exactly what you need in the ACC going forward because – as we said, this was going to be a challenging season for them. This was not a normal out-of-conference season. You were playing probably the most difficult out-of-conference schedule. Again, I don't know what the schedule rankings exactly were, but just from looking at the teams that Carolina faced, it was not going to be easy. And you could see that it started to wear on them a little bit. And not having some of those veterans behind them definitely hurt. But I think that's the other night was a really good sign for both guys that they are taking steps in the right direction. The best thing for both of those guys, mainly I think for R.J. Davis, was seeing a shot go in from outside, from the perimeter, because they just could not get anything